Just when y'all are surviving without the band.
Nicky hasn't reached out?
No? Why would he?
He booked a gig at Don Hills tonight, getting the band back together, calling it ex Vila.
That was a clip from the new Apple TV Plus series, City on Fire. And joining us now to talk more about this hit streaming series is Alexander Pineiro. Alex, thank you so much for joining us here today on Live in the Bay.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning. It's a beautiful day out.
It is. It really is finally. We are so happy to have the sunshine. And I know you have the sunshine over in Los Angeles as well, too, right?
Oh my God, yes. It's been like 3 weeks of June gloom, and now the sun is out, and praise God.
Oh man, we are so excited over here as well, here in the Bay Area. Now, Alex, we have to talk about your new series on Apple TV Plus, City on Fire. So exciting that this is released. I know a lot of people are excited to watch this. Can you give us an overall synopsis about what fans can expect?
Sure. So City on Fire is an Apple TV Plus show. Basically, it's set in 2003. It's about an NYU student who's shot in Central Park. And unbeknownst to us, this one event brings all of these characters together in these string of events. And there's all these explosions happening in New York City, which is actually something that did happen in New York City, in this entire big blackout of New York City. And you'll get to see all of that in the show.
And Alex, you actually were born and raised in New York City, isn't that correct?
That's right, New Yorker.
That's so awesome. So what was it like for you to be able to kind of go back to that home feeling, that home city feeling, and shoot a show that's based off of New York City?
Well, it was a bit surreal because it's not only New York City, but it's New York City set in the early 2000s. You know, it's set around 9/11. It's not based on it, but you see all the trauma. You see all, like the flip phones. You see everything is just very of that period in time. And to be in that time period, you know, in Chinatown with all these like old 2000 Chevy cars, and you know, somebody takes out a sidekick. People are wearing like big T-shirts. It's really surreal, and it really brings me back because I was born and raised in New York City, and I remember all of these, all the culture. I remember all the people, and I actually do remember the grief and the trauma that people were feeling after 9/11. Nobody really, it was hard to trust other people at that time because everybody was really scared.
Wow, that's very emotionally deep, so I'm sure that there are a lot of emotional connections when it comes to that part of the show. But let's talk specifically about your character, Soul. Tell us maybe some differences between the two of you and some similarities as well.
Well, I like to think I'm a pretty good guy. Soul is not so much a good guy. He's, I would say he's a very abrasive personality. He's the type that is the one to use violence and force to really get what he wants. And I think that has a lot to do with his childhood. Me, not so much. I think that what we do have in common, though, is that we both, in the show, he wants to change, like shift the classism of society. He just wants there to be more equality for the artists, the minorities, the dreamers. And you'll see that in the group in the show, Ex Nihilo. And he's also very loyal to a fault, and I could definitely relate to that, especially in my early years. But he remains loyal to the cause, loyal to himself, and I think that's something that's beautiful, you know, outside of the negative parts where, you know, you'll see him beat up couple people in the show.
Well, let's just say maybe they deserved it, you know? What would you say?
Yeah, kind of.
You're like, gotta watch and see. What would you say you maybe learned from playing your character, Soul? I know you, like you said, that you have a lot of differences, but maybe you've learned something from his character.
Oh man, I would say that from Soul and like bringing together with the acting, I think he really gave me the opportunity to take a lot more chances in performances because you have to be very brash and very bold in some of these scenes in which you're just coming full force at something, you know, and there's really, you have to go all or nothing. And I think that really helped me as a person to just kind of just go full force, you know, have faith and let it be what it is, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad that we can all always take a little life lessons from some of our work. And speaking of some of your other work, you also had a role in Justice the Bronx. I know that that was one of your first breakout roles. Can you tell us maybe how you've grown since then and what it was like for you to be in that film as well?
You're taking it back. So Street Justice The Bronx was a Discovery Channel show in 2017, 2018. And it was about NYPD's most decorated officer. And he pretty much handled Apache in the Bronx, which was like the worst station. It had the most riddled with crime. And I played his partner in crime, Roger Cortez. And if you could probably find that show somewhere on Discovery Channel, but you'll see we're kind of like barging through doors, busting down gang members, and it's very cool in a way it's just high production detective cop, but also it gives you testimonials about the actual cop himself that the show is about. So it's an interesting show, and I think in terms of growth, oh my God, that's 6 years ago. It's so many things have happened. I've moved from New York to LA. I've been on shows like Law and Order SVU, Dr. Death, done theater. And I mean, it's a long journey. I mean, acting is definitely a journey. It's a marathon, not a race,
Yeah, a journey, and a journey it has been. And you've actually been on this creative journey for quite a while. I'm not sure fans are aware of this, but at 9 years old, you actually had some of your poetry published in a children's poetry book. Have you always been a creative?
I'd like to think it was kind of like a hidden talent that I didn't figure out until much later, hidden potential. But my parents they really pushed me to do a lot of things. As a kid, at least for me, I didn't want to do anything. So like being part of sports teams, playing piano, playing drums, writing, my parents really believed in my writing. And I think that was something that I'm noticing in recent years as a full-grown adult, really putting into that talent. But the poetry book, I wish that someone had it, because I remember it very fondly, and it was about my uncle who passed away when I was like in that period of time, and it was a very traumatic event that I used to create art. And I think that's a lesson that people take negative, anger, hate, heartbreak, and make it into art, and it becomes something beautiful. But if somebody had that book, reach out. If somebody sees it somewhere.
We are giving everybody a shout out. Please, if you find the book, send it Alex's way. Right, Alex?
Yes, please. I'll reward, a ransom, whatever you need.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the show, Alex. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. And if you have social media, please find me at AP Swab on Instagram and Facebook for future developments. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that.